Hey, in this video we're going to create a GitHub Code Analysis Agency that will analyze your code according to your standard operating procedures and will leave analysis comments on your pull requests. This is an example of a non-standard AI agent automation that runs only on the backend and allows you to significantly increase the efficiency of your operations. Even in our agency, we recently released a new feature on our SaaS platform that allows you to create those custom GPT apps, white label them, add multiple agents and control user access. But the problem is that as our code base continues to grow and we keep adding more and more features, it becomes increasingly harder to scale. This is where SOPs or standard operating procedures come in. If all your developers follow the same code quality standards, it becomes much easier for your team to collaborate and add new features. And secondly, I have personally received more than 5 requests for this exact AI solution from various businesses around the world. So it seems like there is a real need for this solution across large corporations. Besides, it is a great use case to get started with because you can build upon it and even add additional capabilities, like for example you can make your agents actually fix the problematic code and then push it on GitHub as well. So let's see how this works. Okay, so this is my agency here on the left that I created in this video, and it consists of 3 agents: the CEO, the code analyzer and the report generator agent. Inside the code analyzer agent instructions, I'm providing the code quality standards that this agent must adhere to. So let's try to break them. Here's a function to create a chat name automatically after user sends the first message. So let's try to modify this. Say for example I made the narrow and instead of calling the DB class, I updated the document in Firestore directly with the new chat name. Now I'm gonna push these changes on GitHub. After I've pushed these changes, I'm now gonna create a new pull request. Awesome, so now as you can see, we've triggered our agency on GitHub Actions automatically, which means that they're currently running and analyzing our code base for any code quality issues. Perfect, so then as you can see, we get the code quality report on our pull request that identifies the exact issue I have just created with the direct Firestore call. It even specifies the file path and some details like that the DB collections interface was not properly used to ensure encapsulation and maintainability. It even provides a recommendation that to adhere to our code quality standards, it is recommended that all Firestore interactions must be refactored to use the DB collections interface. This will ensure that our code base remains clean, maintainable, and in compliance with our encapsulation policies. So now let's see how you can make this agency yourself. For everyone who's new, please make sure to install Agency Swarm with pip install Agency Swarm, and then to get started much faster, you can run Agency Swarm Genesis command. This is how I personally start all of my projects, because the Genesis agency will create all the agent folders and tools for you. Of course, it does not get everything right on the first attempt just yet, but it does speed up the process significantly. When chatting with the Genesis agency, make sure to clarify what your mission is, what your goals are, what tools or APIs you want to utilize, and how many agents you want to create. Also include the communication flows between your agents. In my prompt, I'm just gonna say that I need a code analysis agency with 3 agents, and the only tools that they will use will utilize the GitHub API. Fantastic. As you can see, the agency structure is exactly as I requested with the CEO, code analyzer, and the report generator agents. It does take some time for your agents to be created, so we're gonna skip this part and I'll see you again when we are ready to fine-tune this agency. The main idea behind this agency is that we will have 3 agents: the CEO who will initiate the communication that will fetch all of the changes from the GitHub, and the report generator agent that will create comments on our pull requests and highlight any problematic lines of code. Okay, as you can see, we now got the GitHub pull request fetcher tool, which uses GitHub API to get all the changes from the pull request, which is already super helpful because it saved me a lot of time on browsing GitHub API documentation and writing all of this boilerplate code. In the meantime, I'll start working on the agency instructions, because this is where you can really tailor the agency for your specific process in your company. Okay, awesome. So now the agency creation process is complete and we can see all the agent files here on the left with the tools defined accordingly. The best part is how close the tools are to what I actually wanted to implement myself. So now all we have to do is just adjust these tools accordingly. To test your tool, what you can do is simply add if name equals main at the end of the tool file and then hard code the parameters when initializing this tool. Then simply execute the run method inside the print statement. The pull request ID I'm also going to hard code for now just for testing, but in the production environment we will use GitHub event to get this dynamically. Okay, so after I have adjusted this tool, we are finally ready to test it. Simply run this file and then you should get a response from the GitHub API right here. Awesome, now as you can see on the pull request we get a comment which was created by myself via API. So then we also need to adjust and test the GitHub pull request fetcher tool. Okay, seems like our agent wanted to keep only the TypeScript files because this is the way I defined my prompt when I was chatting with the Genesis agency. But for this tutorial, I do wanted to analyze all of the files and see all of the file changes, which is why I'm basically getting the file name and then listing all of the changes accordingly and then returning them from this tool. So if we run this tool, as you can see, we now get a list of all of the file changes that includes the file name and then all of the lines that were changed in this pull request. So we are now almost ready to test this whole agency. Like literally I just adjusted 2 tools and we are almost there. It's incredible how much of the work was done by the Genesis agency for me. So what I'm gonna do next is adjust all of the instructions and define our code quality standards just so our agent knows what to look at when analyzing those files. So I already have this standard operating procedure for how to work on our project backends right here, and basically I'm just gonna copy and paste some of the checklist items into the instructions for the code analyzer agent. Because this is an integration that will be running solely on the backend, we actually don't need to run the demo gradio or the run demo commands because our agency will essentially be triggered by a pull request on GitHub. So what we can do instead is simply use the agency.getCompletion method with a simple prompt like please analyze the code and generate a report. So let's test it out. Okay, cool. So after we launched our agency, you can see all the threads appear in the terminal. So you can click on them and check out the conversations between your agents. For example, here we can see how the code analyzer agent just used the pull request fetcher tool and got all of the file changes. Awesome, so then the agency get completion method returns that the analysis of the TypeScript codebase has been completed, and we can even actually add a link to the issue comment, which we can check out like this. Now the only thing left to do is just deploy this agency in production and make sure it runs on every pull request automatically. However, to run this agency live, we need to replace the hard-coded pull request number with the pull request which triggered the action. To do so, I basically chatted with ChatGPT and figured out that GitHub uses GitHub event path environment variable to store all of the information about the event that triggered this action. So what we can do is simply parse this file and then extract the pull request ID just like that. Then we can use this pull request ID inside our URL. I'm going to do the same in the report generator tool. So now that our agency is ready for deployment, what we can do is simply copy the whole agency folder and then drop it into our OpenAI-Widget project repository. Add all of the files to GitHub and don't forget to also add an environment file with your OpenAI key and the GitHub token. Then I'm going to create a new workflow which will essentially just trigger this agency and run it on the backend. To do so, I'm simply going to tell ChatGPT to create a basic GitHub workflow file that executes a Python file. Then I'm going to copy this file and paste it inside our repository. Awesome, so now that our agency and the workflow files are done, we can simply push this code to GitHub. After that, I'm gonna intentionally break one of the files just so we can test this workflow. So now that I pushed this code, I'm gonna create a pull request to trigger the agency. Perfect, so now as you can see, our action has been executed on the backend and we should see the analysis report right here and it indeed states that the Firestore direct access violation was detected and that the call to Firestore database was not done through the DB collections class as I have specified in my standard operating procedures. It also provides some recommendations on how to fix this. Honestly, this is incredibly helpful. I'm probably actually gonna run this on almost every single project from now, so we can always keep track of our code quality standards and ensure that there are no issues before we merge any pull requests. Like always, all of the code will be on my new Agency Swarm lab repository, where you can directly copy this agency and use it for your own code base with your own standard operating procedures, or even tailor it for a different process. Like, for example, you can even make it generate code and fix those issues and then commit them on GitHub as well, or even leave comments on the specific lines of code where the problems were encountered using GitHub API. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.